Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's meeting for the Chambersburg Area School Board Board of Directors, Tuesday, March 25th. This is our regular meeting. The school directors met in executive session prior to our meeting here tonight, as well as after our meeting 2 weeks ago to discuss personnel matters. So if you would please join me with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 2.03, approval to adopt tonight's meeting agenda, please. Motion and second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McKee, second by Mrs. Gogler. Questions, discussion? I'm going to just throw one little discussion thing out there. We're going to move item 3.03 to item 3.001 in front of 3.01. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and so move. As I just stated, we're going to do item 3.03 next. It's good news. It's the banners, and it's the reason why the room is full. And when Chris told me why the room was full, it's very great news for this old goat who spent 12 years up here, and when the room's full, it was usually for bad reasons. But this is a good reason tonight, so I'm happy. Mr. Widman, take it away.
I'll kick it off first. Yep, I'll kick it off first. Thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate you coming out as a group effort to represent your school and our quest to get all our schools in some form of schools of distinction. It's no easy task these days to traverse public education and have everybody support public education in general, but I want you to know this is the beginning of our support for you and recognition. For those of you that remember when I worked here from 2007 to 2015, we recognized you on an annual basis with banners. If you're in your school and you see writing performance or outstanding this or growth, that was the time when we did recognition. So really fond of this, but also it's really important for everybody to understand what we value. And no teacher necessarily or administrator or staff member wants to leave a place or not work for a place that's successful. And so tonight we want to begin our process of schools of distinction with recognitions, congratulations, starting with U.S. News and World Report. On short on that, just on broad brush, the bare minimum is you need to be in the top 40% of school districts across the country, United States, Pennsylvania, to qualify for a banner. And there are levels of banner, but for tonight, you're just in the top 40%. And that's no small feat and task for each school to get to that level of accomplishment. So Kurt Widman's going to take us through and Mark Long through the recognition process.
So we're going to start with Hamilton Heights Elementary. So if we could have the staff come up and stand by their banner. Mr. Miller is going to be taking a photo of them. Hamilton Heights is led by Mrs. Michelle Holtree. She's the principal. And this is back-to-back recognition for Hamilton Heights. So congratulations, Hamilton Heights, for back-to-back honors for U.S. News and World Reports. our next school, I know they have a lot of folks here tonight, is Chambersburg Area Middle School North. The principal at Chambersburg Middle School North is Mrs. Jennifer Drake, and I know at least one of her assistant principals here is Dave Mosier tonight, and Jamie Vinglass. So, and all the faculty that are here, if you'd please come up for a photo.
It's great. It's great. It's good to put a face with the dollars.
Okay, yeah. There you go, perfect. Here we go, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. Go through again. 1, 2, 3.
Let's hear it for Cams North. Well done. And look at Cam South wearing some matching shirts tonight. So if we could have Cam South come up here. Melissa Cash Dollar is the principal. I see Emily Sollenberger, assistant principal, and I don't know if Scott Schoenberger's here, but he's also assistant principal. So congratulations, Cam South.
Style points.
They know how to do this.
Okay, actually, yeah, we got you. Here we go. All right, on 3 big smiles. 1, 2, 3. Let's try again on 3. 1, 2, 3. One more.
Perfect shot right here.
On 3 again. 1, 2, 3. We're good.
Awesome job, Cam South. And our last school is Guilford Hills. They're definitely not going to have that many staff members from Guilford Hills. But Dr. Sarah Herbert and any staff from Guilford Hills, if you would come up, be recognized.
Great. Here we go. 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Another one. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Let's hear it for all of our schools that were recognized this evening. That's a very incredible feat. And folks, you're free to go at this time, teachers. Thank you very much for coming this evening. We really appreciate it.
Still a crowd.
We had 2 meeting last year. We had 4 this year. CMS dropped off. We were on it last year, but not this year. The Magna School was on it last year, but they dropped off.
The whole side of the room cleared out. So I did the same thing.
That's a sad story.
All right. Well, I'll make my comments in my sections. I'll just turn to you,
Right.
Chris. 3.01 Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, it seems to be that time of year with recognition, so thanks everybody for participating in the U.S. News and World Report. We hope to continue to grow that performance where all schools meet that designation. Also, we received a PennSRA award, which is through our communication and the video testimony that we've been doing to promote the school district. We won an award for that, which is wonderful. Cassius was an exemplary program at Shippensburg. They were recognized, I believe, last week for the HERO program for positive behavior intervention. And last is more of just a hero in general. Our Chambersburg police really did help intervene in an issue outside of school that could have been seriously really difficult. So I just want to thank for our police for saying, school didn't end today, it's not my job. They went above and beyond the call of duty to help a family and really help out. So thanks to them. Last but not least, ROTC, if you were at the pass and review, we got our official designation of outstanding in every single category again. So did we get the distinction yet? Unit of distinction, but I saw it was outstanding for everything. So couldn't be any better and more proud of ROTC. We do have a person this year driving our attendance, an attendance leader. So it's Heidi Manier. She's working with Trish Thomas and the social workers to improve our attendance overall. But along the way, we also are in the process of verifying attendance, whether you live here, whether you don't live here and trying to attend school, cyber school attendance. And so attendance has taken on a whole new meaning these days. So I'm very proud of that team for tackling the efforts on attendance, physically, cyber school, sending letters, verifying, making sure you're enrolled, should be here, and that we also appropriately pay our cyber bills for those attendance as well. So I do want to thank Heidi, Trish, and the social workers for all of that work to date so far. Last but not least, we have upcoming presentations to the board that will include the teacher pipeline program. We will have technology, data, which is data quality on our end, and artificial intelligence. We will have a CVA, which is Chambersburg Cyber School, a presentation along with how many students are in outside cyber schools. We will review our placement process when students go through admin review and what the process is and what the outcomes are during difficult admin review processes. We will have our food service CEP program review in time potentially for next year, so we'll review that. And then last but not least, continued academic updates such as the reading by third grade. So we do have a busy a spring season ahead of us, so be prepared for a few extra half-hour minutes here. End of report.
Thank you, Chris. Just hitchhike on a couple things. One, what we did here first with the teacher and building recognitions. I'd like to thank the teachers and the students for achieving those results. A lot of that is based on, most of that is based on the results that Mr. Widman presented to us 2 months ago now or so, 3 months ago. So that's not very appreciative of our staff and the teachers, but also a big thank you to the students who achieved it and the teachers who led them to that path. Other part of my report, what Chris mentioned there about cyber school and attendance, I'll give you a little preview here, and it is item 15.05 in the information session. It ended up there because it's been sort of a late topic that Chris brought to my attention, and then just earlier today said, you know what, and I'll go into more detail later. It's really made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. So I said, let's talk about it in a full board, and we'll get into it here a little bit later. It's really disappointing that what Chris shared. So we'll share that a little bit later with the whole group. So stay tuned for item 15.05. Don't run off. And with that, 4.01, audit report. Gentleman from Smith, Elliott, and Kearns. Then he can run off.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Stauffer. I'm a member of the firm with SCK, or Smith, Elliott, Kearns & Company. Typical for an audit, when an auditor shows up, half the room leaves. So I feel right at home here this evening. I'm here tonight just to go through the results from the audit. So what I've tried to do is take the 100-plus pages from the audited financial statements, the management letter, and the required communications, and condense it down into about a 3 to 5 minute presentation for you here this evening. Overall, I think you'll be very pleased with the results from the audit this year. First and foremost, we were able to issue an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion that we can issue on the financial statements. And essentially what that means is that we feel the financial statements are materially correct and can be relied upon. It is not an opinion or results on internal controls, nor is it an opinion or results of a fraud investigation. I know sometimes people hear the word audit, they may think that we look at every transaction. Although it may feel like it to Danette and her staff, we do not look at every transaction. We perform sampling to ultimately issue the opinion that the financial statements are materially correct. And again, we were able to do so this year. As far as the single audit is concerned, and the single audits where we have to look at certain federal programs or per program, this year we all tested the ESSER program yet again. And I'm happy to report that we didn't have any compliance findings related to the ESSER program. So there were no findings related to the financial statement audit and no compliance findings related to the single audit. So again, very positive notes. Financially for the year, the general fund did have an increase of about $9.2 million after transfers of about $8 million to other funds. So an increase in the fund balance, meaning the revenues exceeded the expenditures, and you were able to make transfers to the other funds of $8 million. The total general fund revenues for the year were just under $191 million. Just to highlight the federal revenue piece of that's just under $15 million, which again still includes the ESSER funds during the 24 fiscal year. As far as the expenditures are concerned, about $175 million this year. Largest expenditures, not surprising, but our salaries and benefits. And then you also had the ESSER expenditures during the current year, again offsetting the revenue in the current year. For the food service fund, did have an increase in that position of $573,000, so a positive note that the revenues also exceeded the expenses within your food service fund. So it is self-sustaining and a very positive note. Moving to the medical insurance fund finally, they also saw an increase of about $2.4 million, but that did include a transfer from the general fund to subsidize that during the current year because of the claims related to the medical insurance fund. The other two letters that we have related to your audit are what's known as your required communications letter. Had there been any significant issues in completing the audit or disagreements with management on accounting principles, we'd have to report on those. I'm happy to report there were no such issues or disagreements, so that's why we just considered our standard communications. And then finally, our management letter. If we would have had any recommendations related to the audit, we would have included those there. Didn't have any recommendations, so another positive note. We did go through some new standards that'll be affecting the financial statements in future periods. I won't bore you with those details now, but we did review those in detail with management. And then finally, we do have some graphical analysis that's both included in the management letter and also here attached to the rest of the presentation, but won't flip through those here tonight, but just wanted to make reference to those. So again, just in summary, I think very positive results from the audit, unmodified audit opinion, overall increase in fund balance for most funds, and didn't have any findings related to the audit. I know that was a lot of information. I hope somewhat fairly quickly for you. But I'm happy to answer any questions from the presentation or from the audit documents themselves.
Good news goes quick.
That's right. Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. We appreciate doing a service for the district. If you do have any questions after tonight, please feel free to either contact me or filter those through management. We'd be happy to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Moving on with presentations, item 4.02, communications and marketing. So that's Mr. Miller.
Good evening, board members, members of the public. My name is Brian Miller. I'm the Communications and Marketing Director in the district. And this evening, what I'm going to be doing is giving you just a brief overview of some of the communications efforts that we have put into what we've been putting out to all of you throughout this year so far, some of the strategies that we've been using, and how we're using data and community feedback to inform our efforts. Now, Mr. Bigger told me I had 10 minutes to get through this, so if I'm going quick, that's why he said he's going to run me out of here if I go over. So, jumping right into it, we've been using several different forms of community engagement strategies to try to help the community better understand where we're going as a district and some of the things that are happening here. The first one you'll hear about that we have on the screen here are public forums. Now, you'll hear me talk a lot this evening about two-way communication. It's very important that as we move forward as a district that is trying to accomplish great things, that we are making sure that not only are we putting out information to you that you can understand where we're going, but we're also hearing your feedback and using that in our decision-making process. hopefully you've seen, and maybe you've even attended some of the community forums that we've had. We had several over the past couple months, leading up into some of the decisions that we're making going forward. We had those recorded, those were posted online for you to view. We even had a Spanish language forum with interpreters that were there that we had in the Chambersburg Rec Center. Again, providing outlets for everybody to give us feedback on where we're going and hear about some of the plans that we have. Now, moving forward, you'll see that we have some informational sessions coming up. These will focus on the future academic calendar changes that are proposed. The first one is on April 1st, so that's actually next Monday. That will be at Camp South Auditorium, so we hope to see you there. Tuesday, I'm sorry, Tuesday. And next slide, please.
April Fool. Did he say April Fools? Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. Okay. We heard that, Carl.
Again, talking about two-way communication, one of the ways that we can understand how you feel about certain things that we're doing, or some of the methods we're using for communication, or even the direction that we're taking is through surveys. And we've had several throughout this past year. You can see them listed there. I don't necessarily go through each one, but what I do want to say is that all of these surveys that we've taken either give us a baseline on how we're doing in a particular area that we can use for future decision-making processes, or gives you feedback into where we should go as a district. One of those being the CASD Parent Community Survey in the spring, in which we use that to, in fact, get our top 5 priorities for the district moving forward. So again, not only are we listening to you, we're taking that feedback and plugging it into what we are doing as a district. An important one that I'm going to talk about this evening is our CSD Communication Survey that we took in July 2024. So I'll get into some of the details about that, but just to say, in this past year, as I'm sitting down with Mr. Bigger and we're talking about what should we do to communicate with parents, with the community, we use some of this feedback to really highlight where we should be putting certain messages, where things on the website should be, because you've told us those things are important. And so we're taking that feedback and integrating it into our strategies as we move forward. And things like the CSD Parent Guardian School Climate Survey. Not something we particularly did this year, but it gives us a baseline. And then as we move forward and we want to do another survey with climate, we can use that as a baseline to see how we're doing. Next slide, please. Another new and exciting strategy that we've used this year are our newsletters. Hopefully you've seen this. Has everybody gotten a newsletter? Yes, some of you, most of you, you should have. Hopefully you have. If you haven't, those newsletters are posted to our social media. You can find them on our website. We email those out to parents. We post them on our app. There are tons of different ways that you can get those. So those are actually created in-house by Bev Lang, who does a really great job of putting those together for us. They're printed and they're mailed to residents in Chambersburg. Now, what's important about this strategy is that as we take a look back at all of our different groups that we want to reach with the messages of what we're doing here in the district, we have to understand that not all of them are on social media. Not all of them are necessarily reading the papers. They are doing their own thing, right? Maybe they don't have kids in the district. Maybe they are just running a business in this area. So what we want to do is provide a method to get information to them where they don't necessarily have to come to us. And that's where this fits into our engagement strategies. It's getting the information about the district to people that might not be, in fact, really looking for anything. But as community members, they're important parts of what we do, and they should know about the great things that we're doing here in the district. The next slide, please. An important aspect, one of the most important aspects of our community engagement strategies is our online presence. You can see we had a new website update that just happened actually on February 14th. We've been getting great feedback from that. In fact, just this past week, I was able to attend a parent advisory meeting, and we heard some great feedback from that. Not necessarily all positive, but things that we need to know about as we are continuing on with that. And by the way, I do want to give a shout out and kudos to Christine Walgermuth and her team, and Bev Lang and all of those who did a tremendous amount of work to have this changeover that happened on February 14th as we went to this new website. Hopefully you've seen that video is an important part of our website. If you go on there, you see a nice little recap of all the activities that happen here in the district. What we found is that video is providing a really great way of increasing engagement in the messages that we're trying to put out there. And so Mr. Bigger talked about it a little bit in his update. that we did, in fact, we were named as one of the, I think it was 4 winners from Pennsboro. They gave an award for excellence in communications. And so we submitted some of our video testimonials that we put together at the end of last year, and ours was chosen, one of their highest awards that they gave. And so that's an important part of our strategy going forward, is to not just tell our stories through print or, as we're going to talk about, radio or other methods, but to look into video as well, because we're seeing higher engagement on those types of posts. Social media, of course, is an important part of our communications efforts. You can see all of our followers that are listed there. We have a great presence on Facebook. You'll see some of the feedback on our social media as well when we get to communication survey results, but we have a steady growing social media presence. And also our CASD app. We're very proud of our app and what we've been able to accomplish with that. We've had 600 downloads just this year, over 5,000 total. The great thing about the CASD app is that it provides a way for those who maybe won't be in our messaging systems to get all of the types of updates that parents get. So if you're a grandparent and you're interested in your child, your grandchild or granddaughter, whatever it is, getting updates on delays and cancellations, you can download the app and you get messages. The video, the audio, and everything of the calls will go straight to your app. So you can get those without even being on our call list. So it's a great way, again, for the community to get engaged in what we're doing. Okay, the next slide, please. Another important aspect of our engagement strategy is our radio presence. This is something that we've been really increasing our promotion of and utilization of over the past year. The Trojan radio station, 92.7 WEMR. We have been pairing with some of the students and with Andy Berry, who runs the radio program over at Caches, to produce a podcast series called Education Exchange. You can see some of those listed there. I don't know about you, but I'm a podcast person. I love to put a podcast on while I'm doing something around the house. You can kind of just zone out to it. So again, this is another way of reaching people where they're at, right? So again, maybe you're not following us on social media, or you're not getting our emails, you're not a parent. But if you tune in, you're going to hear about some of the things that are happening in the district and some of the ways that we're moving forward and some of the changes that might be coming down the pipeline. So you can actually listen to that online right now. So even if you're outside of our broadcast area, if you go to our website, we just added this a couple weeks ago, there is a link at the very top for the radio station where you can click it and you can play it over the internet. So you don't even have to be listening to it on the radio to hear the radio station. So make sure to check that out. And you can go to our website, you can scan that QR code, you can listen to this podcast and hear some really interesting conversations with Mr. Bigger. Our next slide here is some of our news coverage and our strategies reaching out to local news outlets. One of the things that we're doing this year, which is a little bit of a change, is that we are trying to take a strategic approach to how we are getting information out to local news. We are trying to be much more proactive than reactive. We're trying to tell our story rather than waiting for a particular narrative to be made, whatever it is. We are trying to let them know about the great things. How are they going to know what's happening in the district and all the good that happens there if we don't tell them, right? And so, as you all have seen, hopefully, in your biweekly reports, we are listing out all of the news articles that come out about the district, whether they're good, bad, or in between, so that you can see, we can all get a sense of what the community is saying about what we're doing. And I put those together just from the beginning of the school year. And you can see we've had a huge amount of press with what we're doing because, again, we're taking a proactive approach. We're providing the press releases to all these outlets and really trying to be out in front of what we're doing here in the district so they understand and are not just making up conclusions based on what's being talked about in the community. And so one of the interesting trends that we're seeing with that is that as some of the, what you might call official news outlets are doing less with organizations like the Public Opinion, not necessarily covering us as much as they have in the past, we are seeing an increase in local news coverage that is primarily based online. You can see that through Tri-State Alert, Franklin County Free Press, Local News One. Again, organizations that don't have a print necessarily, but are getting a ton of traction on information that they're sharing that we're giving them. And so we try to feed into that. We give them as much information as we can, and they're helping us out by putting that out there. And I did take a kind of a quick look at sort of over this entire year so far what the percentage is, because it's not just enough we said to say that we've had a lot of news articles come out. We want to know whether those things are positive, right, or negative. And obviously this could be a little bit subjective, but looking at a full listing of everything that's come out at the beginning of the year, approximately 70% of the articles are highlighting achievements and new programs and reflecting a positive outlook on the district. About 20% you could say are neutral. They're just things that are announcing stuff that's happening here, maybe a news article about a delay or cancellation. We've had lots of those this year. And then only really 10% of news articles this entire year have been about challenging incidents or addressing threats or other things that we might say is a negative. So we're very positive about that. We think that's a great baseline, again, as we're continuing on with what we're trying to do. Now, to look into our communications survey, again, trying to go as quickly as I can here. If you want to go to the next slide, please. In July of this past year, we conducted a communications survey. It was actually part of an academic study that included a social media audit of the district and a literature review. This was part of my master's program for strategic communications that I went through with Shippensburg University. And as a part of that, what we wanted to do is to find out what people's general sense was on all the different things that we did relating to communications, right? And what we found out, there were a couple surprises there, but most of it was where people are as far as what they prefer, what they don't like, what we could improve on. And you'll see some of the findings there. So some of the key findings with mass messaging: 54% of respondents rated text messaging as the most effective, and that was the highest of all the types of messages that we send out, calls, emails, and all of that. They prefer to receive updates via email and text. And we didn't even just want to ask what their preferences were for messages. We wanted to ask, well, what types of messages do you prefer on the types of communication that we send out? Again, very interesting to us. Email was the preferred method for general updates, 90%. And for academic progress notifications. Phone calls are preferred for emergency alerts, and text messages are preferred for event reminders. And so what does that mean for us? Well, when we have a school or an organization that comes to me and says, well, we want to put out a phone call about this event or thing that's happening, we have to look at that and say, well, that's not necessarily where our parents and community want to see that type of, or want to get that type of information, right? If you get a call to your phone, our hope is that you would think it's a very important thing that you should answer, right? And so we are the filter through which all of those types of communication methods go out. And we use this as a basis for what we're doing. And so on a lesser scale of importance, we would say with email, well, we could email you because that's not as intrusive to what you're doing in your day-to-day life, or maybe a text message. You can just quickly look at it and move on with your day. And so again, our surveys and our two-way communication is informing what we're doing. So you can go to the next one there. Again, with the survey, what we found was you can see some of the statistics on how many times we have families visit the website. This is the most important to us. Was we wanted to find out, well, what are the pages that you're actually looking at? What's most important to you? That would be the Sapphire portal and the event calendar. Again, we asked in kind of a different way, what's the most valuable pages, the information you find most valuable on the website. That, again, was the calendar and the Sapphire portal. So as we're going to launch a new website, the first thing that we did is we sat down with Christine and her team. We said, well, what needs to be at the top of the page or very close to the top? It should be these things because you told us those are important for you. Again, it's a way of two-way communication between us and the community and making sure you're getting the information that you need. Some of the other key findings were in social media. Facebook was by far the most utilized and preferred channel for communication, with Instagram only at 20%. And so Facebook was also rated the most effective social media channel. So what that tells us is really two things: that most of our audience is on Facebook, and also we need to take a look at our other social media channels and find out why they're not as successful or why they're not as effective, and change maybe how we're utilizing those. And the next slide, please. And to wrap up, some of the trends that we're finding here just in this school year and going forward. Traditional media remains very valuable. Newsletters, radio, local news outlets, they continue to play a vital role in reaching and engaging community stakeholders, those who aren't necessarily engaged already in our social media channels, or they're not getting our emails from our system because they don't have a kid in the district. That is an important aspect of reaching our community. So we want to lean into that and continue to provide information in those channels. We are seeing steady growth in social media engagement. Video content is consistently growing in popularity, and so even just in this past year, I went and took a look. Our top 3 Facebook posts this year, in terms of engagement, they were all video posts. So how does that affect me when I'm doing my job? Well, we found out that CMS had gotten second place, I think, in their qualifying round for the battle bots. I don't know if you guys saw that on our social media. They came to us and said, we'd love to put it on our social media, on our district social media, and tell people about it. I thought, that's great. They also came and said, well, we have some video from the actual match. And so, well, could you put together a highlight reel for us? And he did. We put it on our YouTube channel, and we posted that out with the announcement. So it wasn't just, here's what they did. He's like, hey, you can actually watch it. And that's a way of kind of bringing to life the stories that we tell. And then the final trend is the importance of two-way communication. It really is going into everything that we're doing in the district. The community forums and surveys allow opportunities for feedback and engagement from family and staff, and the survey data can be used as benchmarks for identifying areas for improvement in our communications efforts. So that was a ton of information as fast as I could. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have one, Mr. Miller. Great presentation, thank you, on communication. I know I ask you this question every time, but I'm gonna ask you it again. Marketing. Where are we at reevaluating our marketing rates?
Yeah, in fact, we just met last week with
Great.
a group of internal staff that we've put together for a naming rights and marketing committee. And what we're doing right now is putting together a plan, and I don't want to talk too much about it, for us to kind of, I don't want to say revamp, but relaunch the program along with I don't say a big ask, but something that we're looking to do that we think could get a lot of potential sponsors to come in. And as a part of that plan is a reevaluation of everything that we do. And so as we will come, hopefully, to the board, in fact, in the next couple months, to tell you about this plan and get approval for it, that will be a very important part of it, that we look at everything we're doing, we bring in our same group, Market Street Sports Group, and ask them to reevaluate. So that is definitely something we're going to be doing.
Great. Look forward to that presentation. Other questions for Mr. Miller? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5.01, members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. Valerie Jordan, and agenda items are several. So everyone else wrote no, but don't worry, if you would like to speak, when Mrs. Jordan is done with her 3 minutes, wave your hand and we'll call you up and still let you speak.
Good evening, board. Is this on? Am I on?
No.
Under the president's report, I just want to mention this quickly. A board goal is to communicate openly and respectfully with all stakeholders. That's something you all voted on, so I want you to keep that in mind as you move forward in your meetings. I think my husband addressed it very nicely at the last meeting. Item 902, the sociology. About 11 days ago, I sent an email to all of you. I hope you all read it. I did further research on this, and I hope you all vote for it tonight, the honors program. I told you my personal story on it, and I meant it. And sociology is used in this county by over 10,000 people. Even our police use it. They also use psychology. I used it on my mother. I used it on my children. I also checked Shalom Christian Academy has a sociology program. I went on their website. You also voted at one time for Kurt Whitman to be your curriculum development administrator. Respect him. He had children in the school district. He's not going to harm any child in the school district. You also voted for Superintendent Bigger. And I asked you to go through the policy book, which you're supposed to follow. And and it says here, if he trusts you, you trust him back. That was one of the things I bolded in my email to you. You should trust him. He's not here to do anybody any harm. Now, I was going to say a lot more about this because I really think tonight you are going to vote for the honors sociology. It doesn't cost me a dime. It does not. You know I understand budgets. You know I understand the bill list. My last item that I'm going to talk about is something that really bothered me. I saw a teacher mention on next door about her need for school supplies. Now, I go to the senior center, and I'll tell you, if the county ever stops, and I'll use this as an example, this construction paper, for me, to do a craft, I'm going to be upset. So I'm going to just tell you that I want you to consider adding money to the budget for supplies for the teachers and the students. And if I have to keep addressing that every time I come here, I will.
Thank you, Mrs. Jordan. Other members of the audience wish to speak on any of the agenda items? Item 7, consent agenda for new items. Items 7.01 through 7.11, these are new items that were not discussed at the committee of the whole. So the first ask, and the ask, if there's any of those, they will be voted on in a block. If there are any of those items that a board member would like to separate out, maybe it's just a question, or if you want an item to be a specific individual vote for just one item. I want to just ask for 7.10, because I do have a question on that. This is a separate item. Any other items?
Yeah, I'd like to have 709.09 just for a comment, please.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, 709 and 710. Any other items? Okay, need a motion to approve items 7.01 through 7.08 and then 7.11.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mr. Haydick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. Takes us to 7.09. Let's have a motion and second, and then Mr. Haydick, you'll be next.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mr. McKee. Mr. Haydick.
I'd like to make a comment about gifts, grants, and donations. When I look at the amount of donations given and the diversity of the organizations and people that are giving, it is totally awesome that our community gives so much to this district. And I really appreciate that. So thank you, public, whoever you are, donors. And I would ask that if you could add a column or a total for all the donations at the bottom, just so we could just see, you know, in one period of time, just how much money we're getting from these donations.
I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions on item 7.09? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, so moved. Item 7.10, a motion and second, please.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mrs. Gauss. Any other board members have questions, comments, or discussions on this? I'm not sure if it's, well, Dr. Long or Mr. Whitman.
Yep.
But my question is on edgenuity. It's the second time in less than a month I've heard that or seen that word. And in years gone by, and I said in my president's report earlier, this old bird, we used to talk about that word all the time. The first time I heard about it not too long ago was when I was circulating my nominating petition. And knocked on a gentleman's door who was a former teacher and left to go to another district, and he proceeded to tell me why, and he really didn't like edgenuity. But haven't heard much about it. Actually, I thought I had heard that we weren't using it quite as much, or it wasn't being used as much. So where are we with edgenuity?
Edgenuity is one of the complete packages is that we can purchase for the students to be able to do asynchronous learning. Asynchronous is there's not another teacher on the end just for checking and things like that. What we've been trying to do with K through 8 is have synchronous learning with the students as well. Once they reach the 9th grade, they're off and running themselves, and it's very hard to pull them into a classroom. This is also probably a medium-priced, not a high-priced system. Some of the systems that we looked at are 3 times as much money. Edgenuity is actually what we purchased when COVID came.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that we are looking at doing is 6 through 12 with Edgenuity. So,
For cyber school.
yes. And
So
then
it's primarily cyber school
Cyber.
platform, okay.
Yes.
Whereas back in the day, it was
Everything.
district-wide,
It was
every
district-wide.
grade.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, is that a common complaint that there are employees that don't really like the system, or is that just one person that maybe it just wasn't a good fit for them?
I mean, when we go to conferences and things like that, we have negatives and positives on it.
Sure.
But it is a very interactive program with videos and things that students can watch. There's also times where they have to sit and read, and then they have to respond and things like that. So it takes a different person to learn online completely. So it's difficult for some people that way, and that's where the bad rap comes from. They're just not ready for it.
Good question. Other questions or discussions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
Before we go to the next section, Mr. Norcross, Mrs. Clever, we did hire some people that are here tonight.
Thank you.
So if we could recognize them. I think Dr. Baum's here. I think Mrs. Luffy way back there. If you guys want to stand up, say hello. If you were hired tonight, maybe just do a quick introduction of yourself. That'd be great. Go ahead. Who are you? Tell us who you are, what position.
I'm Dr. Baum. I currently teach 5th grade at Stevens Elementary, and I was hired as the 6 through 8 math content specialist.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah Luffy, the director of 9 through 12 education, and I'm excited to be returning to Chambersburg Area Senior High School and School District. So I look forward to serving the school district and the community.
Okay, items 8.01 through 8.12. Same ask as the group 7. Any individual items that the board member wishes to have separated to discuss or comment on individually? All right. Hearing none, a motion and a second to approve items 8.01 through 8.12, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hayduck, second by Ms. Harbaugh. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. All right. Section 9, Education and Services. Item 9.01. This was an item that was tabled at our last meeting. If it doesn't come off the table, then it'll go back into for a later discussion if someone wanted to bring it back up. So, board's wishes on taking item 9.01 off the table. If it doesn't come off the table, we would skip to 9.03 tonight.
I'll move to have it off the table.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Harbaugh, second by Mr. Raber. Questions, discussions? Guess we don't discuss taking it off the table, my bad.
Yes.
No. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. Item 9.02, curriculum map for Honors Society. Honors Sociology. My goodness. I need more caffeine tonight, folks. Motion and second, please.
What's the motion for? I'm sorry.
To discuss the honors.
To vote on item 9.02, which this is the item that we put on the table a month ago.
Yeah.
We just took it off the table, so now we,
I'll just move to approve.
I'll second.
motion by Mr. Walker, second by Ms. Harbaugh. Okay. Board? Discussions, comments?
I have a few comments. Come on. At the tender age of 74, I have been called many things. But at our last board meeting, I believe it was inferred that I was a reductionist. I had an idea what that meant, but I looked it up. Yes, that's a fair assessment, what I attempted to do. I attempted to take a complicated subject and reduce it to something a little simpler. In that regard, I'd like to say that I think it's simple to start with the definition about what we are debating. So I pulled out online Merriam-Webster's dictionary and said, what is the definition of sociology? Accordingly, it said, sociology is the science of society, social institutions and social relationships, specifically the systematic study of the development, structure, interaction, and collective behavior of organized groups of human beings. Since there is a scientific basis to the study, that gives me comfort that should this advanced placement course be adopted, that the science serves as guardrails to prevent a teacher from presenting this course in some misguided way. Personally, I would vote to approve this course. I have no problem with its content. However, I will be voting no to approve this course tonight because of the following. I've looked far and wide to see how AP and IB courses are adopted, maintained, and retired. I found no information readily available on the district webpage, and I could not find any policy that addresses the process. I'm requesting that before any of these types of courses be approved, that this board and the public be given a presentation that explains how this works by the person most responsible for these courses. Questions I expect to be answered are, who's in charge of the process? What criteria are established that guide when a course is considered? How many students requesting the course does it take to get the ball rolling? Is there a minimum number? What does it cost the district to establish a course and to maintain the course on a roster of approved courses? And what does it take to retire a course? Are they there in perpetuity? There's probably a lot more questions I would ask if I would hear the presentation, but that's where I am on that issue. Thank you very much.
I think those are great questions. Can the administration respond to some of those now without a presentation, or do we need to set up a separate time for that?
Or is I'll pause. Let the administration answer that.
I can give some of the answers there. Generally in charge of the process are looking at their course requests and their pathways would be the high school, but they work with our supervisor in curriculum instruction, Crystal Lautenslager, so to work on first the curriculum map and then presenting that as following our policy where it would be presented out into the public for over 30 days for anyone to come see and comment or take a look at it. And then we would go through the approval of the map, and then we'd provide resources for that. In this case, it was because of doing college and high school with an agreement with Robert Morris University. Creating the guide courses, I believe in the last Friday folder, Mr. Ocker did provide their course guides in there. So the kind of the course guide question, we did provide that. How many students to start a course? We don't want to run a course without 15 students. That's generally been our guidepost. We do believe we'd probably have about 2 sections at the most of this course if we would move forward with this course. What does it take to retire a course? Generally, that's a great question. We've had, we just don't run a course.
Right. Lack of participation.
Lack of participation, being under that 15 number, we don't run a course. But have we officially retired a course? I'd have to look into that. That's a great question, Mr. Ada. So.
Is there also, I know there's an option for a student to take the course but not test out. Has there been any consideration to say, hey, if you take the course,
credit
you need
advancement.
to test out?
No, testing out. Good.
Yeah, it could be like an AP course. Some of our students have taken this course at dual enrollment, where they actually go to the college and take this course. So.
I personally would like to thank Mr. Ocker and whomever provided the information to the board related to the vast opportunities that are available to students who have the academic ability to achieve the deeper learning that fulfills the challenges of the advanced placement, honors, and international baccalaureate studies. I am hopeful that this information will be available to the public at some time in the near future. I will be voting no for the honors sociology course until the newly hired director for 9 to 12 grades has had an opportunity to evaluate the needs of our high school students and recommend a pathway to correct any recognized deficiencies for the entire student body. The current sociology course provides students an opportunity to learn about society and social behaviors, so all students have this opportunity already. There's about 50 advanced courses plus dual enrollment opportunities where students attend college classes, as Mr. Widman mentioned, at a higher education facility. And so all students have available electives and opportunities for college credits under our present system. And so until we have a clear need for this or other advanced electives, I will be voting no. For those who might question, as I have been questioned at times, about any personal motivation to limit advanced learning for high school students, my grandchildren are currently in advanced math courses at Cam South and on track to be among those students who will enroll in advanced courses in the not too distant future. I have advocated for STEM expansion in our curriculum. I have supported significantly our teachers through messages to them, congratulating them, thanking them, etc. And so I am by no means opposed to advancement of courses and/or the programs of study here. And I just think that we need to wait until we have more information, and I would especially hope that the public would have that wide range of information that was provided for the board on Friday. Thank you.
I'm curious to know, Mr. Haydick, did you feel like you got good answers to your most important questions, or do you still have outstanding questions?
I got answers to my most important questions. I think there's some things that are dangling, but I got enough information now to inform my vote.
I'm curious to know from Mrs. Gogler. Yeah, when you think about this, like you're looking for a 9/12 analysis of everything that we're offering, and trying to understand, like, is there really a need for this? I think 150 kids in the standard sociology and 2 whole classes that are interested in possibly taking this, to me that demonstrates that there is high interest. Like, kids would sign up for it. We have 50 courses or so, 48 I believe. College credit options, there's 12 sciences, there's 6 history courses, there's 6 world languages. We don't have any sociologies, right? And so to me, I'm like, it seems like it is a missing piece. Now, are there other things? Could we do some big analysis of that? Yeah, I'm fine with doing that, but I don't object to this being in the mix. It seems like a very reasonable addition. If we're gonna have 12 sciences, but 0 sociologies in our college credit options, that's kind of where I land on that. So yeah, do you feel like 2 classes full is still not enough, or, yeah?
I was interested in the fact in my research that there are no AP exams for sociology. There are no AP courses.
Sure.
I also researched multiple school districts in South Central Pennsylvania, including Cumberland Valley, Central Dauphin, Central Bucks, which is not South Central Pennsylvania, but
sure.
multiple, and I could not find a single school that had an honors, and there is no AP sociology even available through the college boards that administer the exams for AP courses.
Sure.
And so that leads me to believe that we're kind of an outlier. And until we evaluate the needs of all students, when we know that there is such a vast amount of opportunity for our high-end students, I feel that we need to give Ms. Luffy the opportunity for because once we approve something, Mr. Widman kind of admitted, it's never going to go away, you know?
Well, it does practically, because it's not actually being offered.
Mr. Wood, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead. No, yes, please.
There is a cost to the student for this, correct? Through Robert Morris, or like any dual enrollment course or whatever.
It's about $250 to then get assign the credit to it from Robert Morris.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But you don't have to take it. You don't have to pay and take it.
Correct.
You can still take it as an honors without the dual enrollment for college and high school.
Okay.
Is it Is it transferable to other schools, or is it specific to Robert Morris? The credit that they would get if they paid? I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It just came up when he asked the question.
That's kind of a
You want me to
depends
take that one?
question.
Let me take that
go
one.
ahead.
Okay, yeah.
So every university is unique in that. And
Okay.
unfortunately, when you have a local control state like we do, It's a little bit of a free game out there for what universities will accept.
Okay.
If you were go to like a Maryland, the community college courses all intermix and they all say it's okay. But here we don't. Everybody protects their own turf. So that would be a case by case, school by school, issue by issue.
Okay, thank you.
So,
There are courses though that you can take that are transferable in the PASHE schools or all the Penn State, Shippensburg, that all the Pennsylvania, what we call PASHE schools. So it is a very challenging game to navigate if you're a parent, to say, does this course count or not? The same thing with AP. If you pass with a 3, 4, or 5, not everybody accepts it. So unfortunately, we have an unstructured state higher ed system disconnected from public K-12.
But it still counts toward their graduation requirement.
It would,
here
yes, and
at
to
the
some
high school.
universities,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
I agree with Ms. Gogler. The information we got this week was fantastic. I would love to see that go out to the public. If we're going to do a large scale like analysis of all of this, I feel like answering that question should be included in all that analysis. Parents should know, hey, if you sign up for these 10 courses, you can go to Shippensburg and it's good. And if you sign up for these 8, it's worth nothing. Right?
Potentially.
Right.
So
And
if we're
so-
going to take the time to do that, and I think it's a fair request, please include that.
And so I'm correct that
Research.
if they take a dual enrollment sociology course at Shippensburg University, they will indeed get a credit for
Yes.
transfer to another Pennsylvania
That's correct.
college.
That's correct.
Same thing with Wilson.
That's correct, yeah.
Et cetera.
Wilson's private, so not always everything private to public doesn't always transfer.
Right.
Public to public is usually a greater chance. There's a transfer, I think the transfer portal is the wrong word. That's for NIL, but there is a transfer course portal. You can go in and put in a course and say, does this course count at SHIP? Does this course count? But you cannot guarantee that it's accurate. It is just to get you some information. You basically have to call the department chair at the university and find out from that dean, does this count or not?
And this is my point of, and I challenge Ms. Luffy to
I hope she
come
stays.
back with, yes, she did.
She's
Come
gonna run
back
out the
to
door.
us with something that we stop a smorgasbord smattering of courses that parents have no idea how to guide their students in a pathway. You've heard me mention before the Bloomsburg Luzerne County Community College program, where students at Bloomsburg High School graduate with an associate degree. I don't know that we have that potential here, but I also have spoken several years ago with a gentleman from Shippensburg University, who I don't know if he still is in the capacity that he was at that time, that there was an interest then, this was in 2022, in developing more bonding, so to speak, with our education.
Yeah, he wants to respond to that one because we're on that one.
So now that we have Mrs. Luffy here, I just want to go back to the presentation that we gave on our pillars, the college and career pathway. The number one ask from our blueprint committee that we had was a clearly defined pathway. So, some of your points and Ben's points are very valid, that the one thing that our committee wants is a clearly defined pathways for our students. So that's something that we have to work on. So,
I'd like to make one final comment with respect to Ms. Gogler's comment. You said maybe we're an outlier by offering this course. If ever we needed a opportunity to study how we're behaving as organized human beings, it's today. And maybe we're a trendsetter, not an outlier. Maybe we're leading the way in this to improve how we get along as a community, as a nation. So, that's all I have to say.
Other board, yep, Mr. Walker.
I have one. Yeah, so looking at the climate for what's going on right now, we're talking about sociology, which is piggybacked off of history. I went on the White House's website, and they've got and I think this is very pertinent to what we're dealing with today. Ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling. And you can go on the site and pull this up. I didn't have time to run a bunch of copies off of it. This is January 29, 2025. And in it mentions about having patriotic education taught. Patriotic education means presentation of the history of America grounded in an accurate, honest, unifying, inspiring, and ennobling characterization of America's founding and foundational principles. And later on, it goes on to mention about reestablishing the presidency's advisory commission for 1776 commission and promoting patriotic education. And it goes on upon request advising executive departments and agencies regarding their efforts to ensure patriotic education is appropriately provided to the public at national parks, battlefields, monuments, museums, installations, landmarks, cemeteries, and other places important to the American founding and American history as appropriate and consistent with applicable laws. What I have a problem with this and the direction that we're going in is we're saying teaching patriotic history, and I think the last time we spoke on this, I told you what my experience was coming up, going from junior high, grade school into junior high, and we had history, and then we had black history. One was required, one was an elective. And this is still tied to sociology. So socially, how we were interacting with one another not that long ago, well, this is required, that's important. This one, you can take it or leave it. And so when I see the pushing and moving of, okay, we're teaching patriotic history, at the end of the day, I really don't care about patriotic history personally. I want the truth to be told. And I think there's a lot of truth that needs to be told for the spaces that we're in right now. If we're talking about sociology, what's shaped our culture, what's shaped how we do and move with one another socially. And I'm just going to give you an example socially, what goes on. I perceive myself maybe to be the only African American in the room. I could be wrong on that, so forgive me if there is someone of that heritage. But in the African American community, and you may have heard this, when someone says, oh, he's got good hair. My son, who happens to be mixed race, they would say, oh, he has good hair. Well, that's a social construct in as much as the way his hair grows out of his head, it's got a nice wavy pattern to it and everything else. So that's good hair. But my hair, the way it would grow out of is not so much. And that comes from a social construct of where our standards of beauty came from. So this is the black community, African American community, dealing with these things, these social constructs. And so to me, it's vitally important that I don't even personally, I would rather not this be taught as a higher one. I think it needs to be taught across the board. That's my stance on that. Because at this point in high school, they need to know it now. We're a global community. And there are all sorts of things that have been swept under the carpet, I think, that we don't deal with, haven't dealt with, and it's coming back to bite us. And they're hard topics. They're very hard topics. You know, that stuff race is a hard topic. The misogynistic things that our nation has done, you know, women, sociology-wise, 1972 couldn't get a credit card without their husband signing for it. 72. This is socially what has taken place in our country. Is that stuff taught? Do we know about that? And if we don't, are we going down these pathways? And I'm afraid that if we don't get taught these things, if we don't know the history, if we don't know the sociological things that we're in the middle of, I fear that we're going to continue to go down these pathways and we won't get to the root of it. We'll just cut the head of the dandelion off and it'll be pop right back up again, cut the dandelion off and pop right back up again until we get to the root of these things. So I'm 100% on board with this curriculum being added. And I wish it wasn't just, hey, you know, you can opt out of it. I think we all need to know this history.
And that's the great thing about having the general sociology course that is established and utilized. Yes, I agree.
So how would we vote against?
Other board members who haven't spoken, do you have any other, any comments?
I think I misspoke. I'm sorry.
Go.
I want to correct myself a little bit because I think I was sharing a little bit earlier about we need to know which colleges offer what. And then I said, well, if they don't offer it, well, then it's of no value. I think that's, I probably shouldn't have said it that way, right? I think there's a lot of value in learning, whether you get a degree on the wall or not, whether you get credits or not, there's a lot of value in learning. And so I think I misspoke just for understanding at what I was getting at. I think I still want to know, do you get college credit or not? To Ms. Gauss.
Is the sociology course that's offered now a requirement? No.
I don't think so.
So that removes a lot of history or historical science being honestly and accurately taught if it's not a requirement. And what percentage of students take this current sociology class? But I think I remember it's something like 150.
Yeah, that's the number, yes, currently.
So till students graduate, what percentage of them would have had that course?
Well, we have about 2,300 in the high school, about 150 students are taking it per year, so,
600?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 50 that would sign up for an honors program if we had it.
That's what was initially told to us, that at the most we would have two sections.
I'd just like to say that I really appreciate the public reaching out on this topic. There were people that stood here and spoke. There were people that approached me personally through email, text message, whatever the case might be. That's very important in my decision-making process, and I only speak for myself because I don't make it a habit to speak on behalf of others. Regardless of how this vote goes down tonight, I encourage you as we move forward with the many different heavy lifts as it is, or whatever the topics are gonna be, don't let whatever this may or may not be as far as the vote comes down tonight discourage you from continuing to come here and tell us and email us, or I won't say us, email me, call me. We may not always see eye to eye on every subject, but I can assure you that the public comments and the reaching out and your voice is being considered when decisions are being made on my part. And I appreciate that, and I encourage you to not get upset or frustrated as we move forward with this or anything else if things don't go the way maybe you had hoped that they would, because those public comments, as Mr. Miller pointed out during the communication, are very important, and they do weigh on us, you know, and we do take those into consideration. And I appreciate that to those people that had the courage to stand here. I know public speaking isn't made for everyone, but I know that some people stood in support. I know some people contacted me personally, both for and against. But I just want to encourage everyone as we move forward to please continue reaching out with your concerns, regardless of what the subject is, because that's very important to me and that does weigh into my consideration. Thank you so much.
I concur.
Okay, other board members, I'll go to my comment on this item. Sort of hitchhikes off Mr. Hayduck and Mrs. Gogler's comments. For many years, we've had discussions on voting items when it comes to classes and class sizes. And we talk about it a lot. But I'm not sure that we've ever really sat down and evaluated, or I shouldn't say evaluated, maybe the administration probably has, but as a presentation to the board. And I know it's something that for many years now has come up on and off often. So, you know, I think my thought is at this point, I mean, here we are again. We're at, now it's an honor sociology course. I know one time many years ago it was either honors or an AP geography course, or geometry, honors or AP geometry course many years ago. But my point is, my vote tonight isn't necessarily based on this course. It's this larger concept of, you know, what courses, options. I am a fan of options. I say it in my personal life, I say it in my business life, and I'll sit here and say it in my public life. Options are great for everyone. However, I also go back to the presentation of scores that we recently had, and the high school scores are not as good as the rest of our district. I think that's a fair assessment, right? So, and there are limited resources to us. Buildings, classroom spaces, and we all know teachers. So, not necessarily don't think of my vote as just honor sociology here. Think about all 18 honors classes plus however many AP plus however many IB classes, as Mr. Haydick said. And so, do these honors classes, my suspicion is, my hypothesis is, the students who are taking this class are not the ones that are impacting those test results and scores in high school. So should we be using resources on more bread and butter classes, you know, to help students get all the scores up, not just more classes for the advanced learners, more classes, more options for all learners, regardless where you are in your class ranking.
Can I ask a question, point of clarity? Does this course require more resources than the other course that we have 6 of? I mean, instead of...
It will require a textbook.
Yeah.
Okay, but it wouldn't require more, it would just require a different textbook. Am I understanding correctly, or?
Well, the text, right, this is the curriculum map that is up for approval. The text would be next, that RMU uses. They would want us to use the same one.
I think the way, if I want to interpret a little bit of framing resources, is teacher time as well. Every time you add another course or another section, it's a teacher teaching that course that could be teaching maybe something else. And I think to Ed's point or to others, it's when you add and add and add courses, you dilute the ability for a teacher to teach other courses that may be a keystone course or a high stakes test course or remediation course.
Like for an example in that, if I can hitchhike on Chris. So maybe there's a math course that fits somewhere between Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. Maybe there's a math course that's Algebra 1.5 or something like that. You know, I don't know, but something where to help, you know.
Maybe I misunderstood though. With 150 kids, we have 6 sections. And so if we offered this, we would have 4 sections of the regular and 2 sections of the honors. So as I understood it, it wasn't an increase for this particular course. You would just have less kids taking the regular and
maybe.
I mean, you don't know entirely how it will shake out until you do it. But your best educated guess is that it's not actually going to pull anyone away. You're just going to have more sections of your regular sociology.
That all depends on the course request. I think that's tough to answer.
Yeah, and it could vary from year to year too.
Right,
so.
it could.
And a change in schedule up at the high school this coming year will have an impact on course requests.
Yeah.
Any other comments, discussions before we all vote here?
Yeah, may I say this? Sociology, I agree with Mr. Walker, it starts way beyond taking this course here in the junior, senior, sophomore year. It starts way down low. Being an educated as an elementary teacher, I mean, first of all, I'm a big believer it starts at home, no matter what. That's where it all starts. But then from there, I think it's permeated, and I think through some of the things that we talked about is building positive behavior, the courses we have in the elementary, and just emphasizing that and all that, will make a greater difference than offering this one course, which students can take at other colleges, whatever it may be in that. But because agree, everything's about relationships. I don't care what, and we all have different viewpoints, whatever. But I'm just a big believer that it all starts at the home, and not even with the learning of the students, it starts at home. I mean, and I appreciate so much of the emphasis Mr. Bigger is making toward that. Parents, be behind us in what we're doing here. In that, it'll make a tremendous difference. But I think sociology is taught just sometimes informally, just on a day-to-day basis by teachers in the classroom, whatever it may be. It's just hard for me just to vote just for this one course. I believe about relationships and learning how to get along, whatever it may be. But it starts a lot younger than this.
Okay, Mrs. Stauffer, roll call, please.
Ms. Gogler?
No.
Ms. Gauss?
No.
Ms. Harbaugh?
No.
Mr. Hayduck?
No.
Mr. McKee?
No.
Mr. Norcross?
No.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion fails 6-2.
Okay, when we get down to item 12 for the board, I want to come back to this just briefly when we get down to item 12. Please. 9.03, Chromebook lease and use of assigned fund balance. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Gauss and a second by Mr. Hayduck. Thank you. Questions or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Item 11.01, second reading of policy 204, attendance. Motion and second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gogler, second by Mr. McKee. Questions or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Second reading of policy 239, foreign exchange students. Motion and second again, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr.
McKee.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Second by Mr. Walker.
I've been called worse.
Yeah. Questions or discussions?
What's that mean?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. First reading of policy 8.15.2. Mr. McKee, I hope you give a motion here so I can get your name correct.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McKee, second by Mrs. Gogler. Questions or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Item 12, new business. I'll go first here, and if any other members. From our previous discussion on 9.02, one of the takeaways and notes I wrote down is probably a topic at a future committee of the whole to have a presentation, not just on this particular course that we voted on this evening, but the whole offering of AP, IB, and honors classes. So let that up to Mr. Bigger and his team to establish a timeline for that. In my opinion, I'm more interested in quality and accuracy versus timeliness on this topic. So I think my takeaway from that is this broader discussion needs to be a Cal topic in the future.
To your comment, I'd like to add that I agree, and at the conclusion of that presentation, I'd like to see the sociology AP course be resurfaced to have another consideration to include it in the new, whatever the new program looks like.
Yep.
And I would hope that all of the agreements that we have with various colleges for dual enrollment, for college and the high school, that type of thing would be included in that session.
Yep, all great comments, and I'm sure any other board members, if there's specific information or items that you would like to be included in that Cal, let Mr. Bigger know, and I'm sure, you know, the more advance notice we give him, the better he and the rest of the team can be prepared to give us a informative presentation. Any other board members have new business items they would like to bring up and discuss this evening?
These items here.
Yeah, they're both information,
Yeah,
right?
kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Do it before we adjourn.
Okay. Oh, before I was gonna do it under numbers. Okay. I was gonna do it under information, but Chris corrected me here. 2 items for new business. We do have a regular board meeting scheduled for May 20th, which is primary election day. So this building, room, is tied up. The question is, Faye, Chris and I spoke about this today, late today. 2 suggestions, options: we would move our voting meeting to May 13th. That would be similar to 2 months ago when we did Cal and voting meeting all in one day, one night, which could be a long night, just throw that out there. Or we move it back a week to May 27th. I asked Chris when we were talking about it, as long as it didn't impact any of the 5, 6 budget votes we make, and it wouldn't. So we don't need it for one of our 5 budget votes?
It's not as many now.
Not as many now, 4. So what are the wishes of the board?
I prefer the 13th because I'll be away the 27th.
And I prefer the 27th because I'll be away on the 13th.
Which Stephanie wins out? I'm good either way. I think I have the ability to call in if I need to, if that's what comes down to, if you don't have that same availability.
Well,
The other consideration is that that's the week of 2 graduations that board members will be participating if they're available in. So I think that
You don't want to see us 3 times in a week?
well,
I thought that was just Lance. Come on, man.
Don't be under the bus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a consideration.
No, I agree.
And Career Tech and
I think
FLC
that's-
will meet that week also then, won't they?
Well, possibly 4 times then.
Yeah. So, but the other option is we can do a combined meeting on the 6th.
I don't think there's anything wrong with a combined meeting on the 6th.
We could just make sure there's no heavy cow items.
the 13th?
Okay, sure.
Are there any?
Sure.
Are there any in the pipeline?
Pick one
I'll
of
make
your-
sure all the easy ones are on the 6th.
Yeah, right. Pick a short presentation.
So since we have some conflicts on the 13th and the 27th, would a combined meeting on the 6th work?
So then we just have 1 meeting that month.
Right.
Right.
And 2
And we
graduations?
do have an early June meeting,
Yeah.
which is another consideration.
I kind of prefer the 6th because
Okay, we'll have
Just
Bev-
extra caffeine.
We'll have Bev get that out in
if
the
we know it's
public.
coming, it's not as big of a
Cancel
deal.
the 20th and add that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll have Bev get that out in the public, canceling the 20th meeting and re-advertising the 6th.
Good call.
Okay. Other item in new business, the board communication workshop, the poll that went out from Bev. It's looking favorable for Monday, this coming Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Here.
Monday.
So, you know, it's hard to, So it's hard to get everyone together when we have these special workshop sessions, but I think, as we've talked about in our executive session, it's a needed communications workshop that we'd like to do. So, might not get everyone there, but Monday the 31st, is that, there's 5 people right now and 1 tentative.
I'm a no, I just emailed them this morning.
Okay.
So the tentative is no.
Okay. Yep, so we have 5. Mr. Walker?
We can look at a date. I just think we need to get on it. But we can look at dates in April, send out another survey. We have the forums that are happening on Tuesdays, so I think that.
Mondays open up, and I apologize for that. There was an unforeseen extension, so my Monday kind of froze up on me there. But
Yeah.
Mondays moving forward after this month are good.
Okay.
I might be able to make it. I gotta check my book at home.
Well, no, I think we've pretty much ruled out the 31st,
A Monday in April, maybe?
an April Monday.
Okay, we'll go back to the drawing board and send out another poll.
I just think it's important for the majority, for
Yes.
all board members to be there.
Right.
Okay, with that, our meeting is adjourned, but we already have a little bit of an information discussion here tonight. The one item that I mentioned in my president's report happens to be item 15.05, cyber school attendance. Give you a little bit of recent background on this. Chris had made a comment to me and about some of the processes that our attendance folks have been going through. And maybe he thought I didn't hear it, but I did hear it, and I thought about it. And to be quite honest with you, the more I thought about it, the angrier I get about it. To the point where it really had me fired up today when I talked to him again. So this cyber school attendance, I'm going to give a little bit of a preview. I'm going to turn it over to Chris. We can kick it around a little bit more, and then I might elaborate. I probably will elaborate some more. But this isn't necessarily about when Jane Doe and when her little brother Johnny Doe log in for their required hours or time. Okay? This is more about where they log in from. And the issue is that it's highly likely we have Chambersburg School District is paying cyber tuition for students who no longer live in this district. They may not even be living in this state. But the cyber folks still send us a bill because when they went to cyber school, they were a student and a resident of Chambersburg. What has the hair standing up on the back of my neck is, I mean, we could discuss here all night, you know, the variances between public school and cyber school and all that other stuff. And, you know, petitions and everything else. You know, the cyber schools have gotten where they are the old-fashioned way, the pockets of politicians, in my opinion. But one thing that has me bothered is it just really bothers me that this would fall on the footstep of taxpayers of Chambersburg School District when the student may not even live in this district anymore, or even in this state. That's what got us to this point. I'll pause now. Chris, you can elaborate.
Yeah, without getting people too worked up more than you, we did task our attendance team to look at attendance throughout the district, physical and cyber. And I'm gonna look to Mark for a little bit of help. I do believe when we did communicate with the 500+ students outside of our cyber school, we did have quite a few return envelopes. And so that began the question, okay, where do they live? Did they move to another address within the district, somewhere else? So we've started peeling away at that slow but sure. So do you want to add to the number or also where you are in the process?
Bobby can also jump in here because
Yes.
she's dealing with it, but we sent out just about to everyone, so it was over 500 letters. We did have 22 or 23 that came back to us that the address, no one was there at that address. So we're looking at them right now through Bobby and her secretary. They're sending letters to the cyber schools to try to get some information back from them on these students. But we did find 2 students that lived in Virginia or West Virginia? Virginia. So, and it's an ongoing process. Trish is out at CMS. She's gathering the envelopes every day that they come in, so.
So I think it's our commitment to try to rectify this from our view. I did receive communication from CCA that it's their responsibility to do it. And they'll tell you that it's their job and not our job to communicate directly with parents, but certainly we're gonna continue to double check and verify attendance for anybody. Again, physical and or virtual. It is expensive. If you don't know, it's over $11,000 or $12,000 per child for a regular ed student and pushing 30,000 plus for special education students. So CCA has 24,000 students enrolled. They're almost 30% special education. And so it's a lot of students. And that's just one of the cyber schools. So there is a dollar figure tied to it, and we're certainly going to do our part to try to make sure we're cleaned up and we're following the law for attendance across the board. It also is when you're not participating in school. So how long, we don't know some of the answers to this. How long do you let someone not participate? So if you're an older student, 10 days, after 10 days, we drop you from the rolls. So are there policies in place for the older students? What about the younger students? So if you're not, we do truancy. So we do our approaches for the physical students who are here, and our own cyber students we do that for, but we can't control what the other schools do and how aggressive or assertive they are following their policies, which creates this really difficult conversation we're having. So there is a lot of information out about cyber schools right now, a lot of advocacy at the state level to make some changes in the cyber law. But, you know, to use the words of maybe injustice or fraud or abuse, there definitely is some. We just have to find out where it is. And that's been our task so far this year, and I do commend the folks that are jumping in. Aside from a home visit, have we sent anybody to the houses yet? It's not like we sent it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the next step. I will say there are a few schools, not to mention who they are, that do hire people full-time just to go make sure they're living there. Because if you think about the dollars behind that, you know, paying someone X amount of dollars, and if they find 5 students that don't live there and are not on our bill, that's certainly saving us money. But there are schools that have gotten to that point. And I'm not saying we're at that point yet, but we're certainly reviewing our policies and practices. I hope that was enough to satisfy you.
Yeah, my temperature's going down a little bit since
Okay.
this afternoon.
All right. If
Any other board members' comments? I mean, thoughts, discussion?
Can this go in the field of like us being billed, is that fraudulent? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we don't know. So I think, you know, we're finding out and we correct it when we find it. And we can we can appeal bills and talk a little bit about that when we do find something. The challenge.
Well, I'm going to, again, Bobby's the expert. Her and Suzanne in my office do a phenomenal job of, you know, when kids are moving in and out of the cyber charters, they're trying to get residency verification. But to Mr. Bigger's point, they sometimes get pushback from the cyber saying, you know, they don't have to. Or it's not our job to do that. There is an appeal process, but that's mostly for the cyber charters. Whenever they feel that we've not played them appropriately, they can appeal it. And what happens is the state takes the money out of our subsidy, and then it's up to us to prove that they were wrong. So it's a really kind of strange process that goes on. So it's kind of slanted in the one direction.
Send the bill to Virginia.
The good news and refreshing news is we're working, the
Yeah.
team is working on it.
Yeah.
The bad news is, we are
Paying for it.
fighting against a stacked deck.
I think the intentions are nobody's doing it intentionally. It's just how much effort do you put into finding people? So, you know, the intentions of folks of, are you making the effort to find out where they live or not? And what's the motive and incentive?
Where's the incentive for the cyber school to go find somebody?
Absolutely.
There isn't.
All right. Thank you, everyone.